Welcome to Bourbon and Badges, the podcast, live in Studio 77 from Gastonia, North Carolina, and Calabash, the voice of the uncommon people.
Welcome to Bourbon and Badges, the podcast, Season 7, Episode 10. We have a returning guest, Jerry Millwood, the Bigfoot expert, is here for his third appearance. So Hound Dog and Dobie Dog and the Rodinator will be here speaking with him. And Slow Ride, if you can believe it, is going to be producing, but you won't be able to see or hear him.
I think I'm going to like this a lot better.
Yeah, none of his shenanigans.
He has his papers.
I'm sure he's got...
He told me to let people know he's got his papers. He's got his forehead blotted off a little bit. Just take the glow off the light, and he is producing. Yes,
yeah,
he's holding up papers right now. Yeah. So Slow Ride is here, but he's just listening in, and if he chimes in, folks, we will repeat what he says, just so you know what he says, and we'll get an answer from Jerry. But you will not hear or see our producer, Steve Slow Ride Colvard. All right. How's it going, guys?
Welcome back, our Casar Rebel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So we're going to talk Bigfoot all night, folks. When we get started, we're just going to touch base a little bit on what we're drinking.
Yep.
And then we're going to go straight from there, and it's going to be a show letting Jerry update us on all his success, which he's getting there, folks. You heard it here first. Bourbon and Badges made him famous. What?
What?
Not really. All three of our listeners, though, do listen to him. So let's start with that. I think, Jerry, what you drinking tonight?
Quality.
You got a little... Yeah. What are you drinking tonight, Jerry?
Normally, I would be doing Rebel Small Batch Reserve, but I'm out, so I have corn tonight that I'm drinking. Straight corn.
Oh, okay.
Very nice.
I'm jealous.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, I am too.
Dobie or Hound?
I'm drinking
Go ahead, Hound
the
Dog.
one with the little horsey on it. Blanton's.
Ooh, Blanton's.
You can see that.
Nice. That's nice.
Oh, Breckenridge.
Dobie Dog?
Breckenridge.
Breckenridge. It's Colorado, I think, isn't it?
Yes,
Or Wyoming
Colorado.
or somewhere.
Good stuff.
I'm
Woodford.
not playing around. Got the big Woodford bottle. Thing's about 85 pounds. It's the big
Can't
one.
go wrong with that.
Oh, that's... No, you can't.
Got plenty of it. Well, cool. I think all of those we've already had before, so we'll just move right into it because I want to hear what Jerry's got to say
Me too.
about how he's been doing. Jerry, can you give us a little update on how you've been and what you've been doing and some of your new projects? And then maybe we'll just get into how all of us just want to know more about Bigfoot. And is he out there?
Oh, I'm sure he's out there. Like Slow, he's out there.
You just don't see or hear him.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jerry.
I started my TikTok show on October 24th of this past year, 2024, and I had to put a lot of time into it. There was some time getting ready to start. I had to get my notes organized, recontact some witnesses, that type of thing. Then it started, and it's gone really well, and it has also generated new witnesses coming forward to talk to me about their experiences, not just in the South Mountains area or in the Appalachian Mountains, but really all over. And I have joined another group called NCI, North Carolina Investigates, and that led to me getting to be on the cast of a TV show called NCI on Channel 12 streaming service. I'm going to be involved in a lot more investigations out in the field, not just here in my general area, but I'm going to go to different places. These guys travel a lot. They take part in a lot of Bigfoot conferences and festivals. But still, my favorite thing, my love in all of this is hearing people's stories. And that's what I like to do. I like to interview them and talk to them and get them prepared to talk about them on air.
Right.
Still do a lot of
That is
reading.
awesome. That is awesome. Perfect. That is awesome because I think the last time we talked, it's been a while. When was that, Hound Dog? It was
Oh, man, it was...
June of last year.
last season.
It was last
May.
season. Yeah.
Yeah,
Might have been
May,
two
because
seasons ago.
Because it was before I did my guest appearance and after. Because I remember y'all doing it after
Okay.
I had my first guest appearance.
Yeah.
All right.
Perfect.
Yep.
So
And I'll
do
tell
a
you
lot
what,
of
Jerry.
Go ahead, Hound Dog.
I'll watch all of your TikTok stuff, and man, you always have me on the edge of my seat listening to that. I'm wide-eyed and like a infatuated school kid on listening to the stories that you tell, man. You do a hell of a job.
So on that show, Jerry, the Hound Dog, which I've yet to see, I got to get on it. What is the show? How's the makeup of the show? And I dare say produced. Is it stories? Do you have people on there with you telling their stories? Do you tell the stories? You out in the woods? Can you give us a little rundown, a feel of what people will see if they tune in to your show?
The name of the show is The Strange and Unexplained Phenomena of the South Mountains, North Carolina. It's on TikTok under J.R. Millwood at Casar Rebal. And it's me telling people's stories. It's eyewitnesses' accounts, and I retell their stories. The lion's share of all the witnesses want to remain anonymous, and I'm going to protect that. But I do have some witnesses that not only don't want to remain anonymous, but I've got them lined up to appear on the show with me. The episode number 1, A Family's Night of Terror, the husband and wife from that family are going to go on camera with me. At some point, I'm going to have to drive to Clover, and we're going to record down there. But they want to, and then there's a couple others that want to appear on camera and tell their stories. And I'm looking forward. So far, it's just me telling their stories.
That's okay.
Yeah.
So just a quick question. Why do some people want to stay anonymous? Are they afraid of publicity, them being labeled like crazy? And then other people just don't give a shit. Like they just want to come out and they want to tell the story because they
want to tell the truth.
Something happened to them, right?
Yeah.
So is that kind of how it is, Jerry?
It's a taboo subject around here with most folks. Most of my neighbors won't talk about it. And they don't like that.
Oh, really? Okay.
And then there's people don't want to be made fun of, or they just want to maintain their privacy. And they don't want people showing up at their farm or their house or their hunting cabin or wherever because I burned them on their identity or their location. So I've established that reputation, and people are comfortable talking with me, and I've not had anybody tell me that I could not use their story.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, that's real good. So it's kind of like a hotline for the police. You can report something and just remain anonymous, and that's what a lot of people choose to do because they just want the blowback and the publicity or the weirdos showing up at their place. I get that. Yeah. All right. So fantastic. So you said your first episode. What was the name of it again? And can you tell us that story just to get us going?
Pilot episode was about Scoot the Miracle Dog. It actually involved our dog, a little 8-pound Yorkshire Terrier that was blind and deaf, no teeth. He was 15 years old. He got away from my wife, wound up in the creek bottom here, and we live in we've got wilderness all around us, and somehow that little dog with no teeth, blind, deaf, managed to survive almost 19 days. And he came back. We found him. A neighbor found him in the creek, probably about 1.5 miles from where he disappeared into the woods that day. And we took him to the vet to get him checked out, and he weighed 1/4 ounce more than he did than before he got lost. Now, here's the big thing. The way that dog smelled when we got him back. He smelled like the smell that we smell around here. And other people talk about it all over the country, all over the world. That's what that dog smelled. He reeked so bad. And I ran out of explanations to explain how that dog survived. He couldn't hunt. He's blind and deaf and had no teeth.
Right.
Came back weighing more than he did, and the theories I just kind of put it out there on my pilot episode, and people said it was feral people, or it was Bigfoot, or so on and so forth. Or there was some really crazy ones that some neighbor found him and then took care of him while he was in the woods. I guess the neighbor was supposed to have went out in the woods and found him every day where he was at, but that was ridiculous. And then episode 1. was the family that came in the last weekend of July 2024. They camped in my creek bottom. They were aware. They knew the stories. They knew the reputation. As a matter of fact, the husband has hunted here, and he's had a couple of experiences. That night, they heard two creatures, individuals, speaking, only they were speaking in some kind of a gibberish language, some kind of an unknown language, and the wife even tried to talk with them, and they didn't talk back. As a matter of fact, when she said something, one of the two, whatever you want to call them, the creatures, the individuals, sounded like it got angry and spoke in this weird language. And then later on in the night, they were surrounded on three sides, and they wound up packing up and leaving before the sun came up. Although, I'll update you on that, they are wanting to come back and camp again, only they want some of us camping with them this time. Because they got bit by the bug that you'll get bit by if you have an experience. You start wanting answers. So that was pilot episode and episode number 1.
Wow. So the dogs smelled like the Bigfoots that you guys have encountered. When you smell that smell, you know it's an indication to you. Is that right?
Now I'm willing to say,
I would guess it's a very distinctive smell.
Yes, it is a very distinctive smell, and I say now 100% that odor belongs to a creature here that in this area, creatures plural, that science doesn't recognize because of our visual sightings, to include as recently as this past weekend. And that odor, that's what it is, and I'm willing to go on record as saying that. And that's what the dogs.
So I have a question, Jerry. When you're talking about that odor, I didn't talk about the odor. I've never smelled that odor, but what I'm getting to is I've hunted and stuff a lot, and I've grown up and all my life, and I've smelled a lot of skunks over the years. So how does that compare? Is it like descriptive version of comparing to that skunk odor? How would you just in comparison? Because my understanding is a lot worse.
A little bit of skunk reminiscent in the odor, but not overpowering it. It's an odor of like a pig pen mixed with maybe a rotting corpse, and you can throw a little skunk in there. I have smelled it before and wondered, well, is that a skunk? And then the smell would suddenly dissipate. And when a skunk sprays, that's a persistent agent. Lingers. Sprays and sticks and lingers. Right. And that
makes sense. And I'm just asking for my own knowledge and that makes a lot of sense to me because I've smelled all three before separately, and kind of makes it hit.
You talk about the corpse, the pig pen, and the skunk. You smelled
I've smelled all of those at different times. So
right.
If you have all those
clicks,
if you have all those smells combined, that could be a really stinchy smell.
It literally
good OC pepper.
It kind of clicks in my mind.
If it's strong enough, it literally burns your nostrils. This past Saturday night, we did a night hike. It was close enough. It burnt my nostrils. It's tingy, if that's the right word I'm trying to grasp. And it's a while before you get it out of it. If it's strong enough, if it's close enough.
Right.
But
you said this past Saturday. You said this past Saturday you had you were out and about and actually smelled this to the point where you thought whatever the creature was, it was close enough where you had a pretty strong smell of this.
Yeah, we caught sight of it on thermal.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Can you tell us about that?
Sure. This past weekend, this general area we were investigating was under observation for a little more than 40 hours altogether. There was a group of two guys from Dirty South Squatching came in Friday night, set up all their equipment, their audio, their thermals and everything. And then Saturday morning, myself and two other investigators from NCI, George Lunsford, who's an author as well as an investigator, and Tim Deals, who's an old mountain man and a seasoned investigator. We did a day hike. I wanted to take them and show them some deer corpses, or deer remains. They're not corpses anymore. They're mainly bones. We found dead deer in concentrated areas that was unnatural. Broken ribs, snapped necks, broken backbones, that kind of thing. We found some footprints. We cast a footprint Saturday, and then Saturday evening, another group, who one of them happens to be my cousin, brought some of his crew in. We camped, and then we went on a night hike. So we left out from camp about 8:30, and our target is always the same. We camp in the creek bottom, and we hike up onto a high ridge. We traverse the ridge from west to east. Heard a couple of things, a couple of vocalizations, and a possible would not. We went as far west as we could go until we hit a clear cut that's now overgrown with saplings, and it's just thick because they clear cut it back some time ago. We turned south, and we went over the ridge and then started going back down in elevation again. We had a previous encounter there with thermal. The smell hit us, and my cousin was using his high-end thermal scope, and he just started scanning the area, and he picked up thermal in that real thick stuff. You know, when you clear cut an Appalachian forest, it comes back, and it is so thick. You've either got to be massive and just bore your way through there, you can crawl.
Mm-hmm.
We caught the thermal,
very thick,
and then lost it, but the smell never went away. We stayed for about half an hour. Then we turned around, and we reversed course the same way we came. We got back, I don't know, 30, 40 yards from starting our journey back toward camp, and the smell got strong. We turned and started heading west. The smell was still with us, and we would stop because we heard walking in the woods south of us, would be to our left. And Ryan started scanning again with his thermal, and sure enough, he picked it up, and that went on for 20 minutes. As a matter of fact, we stopped, and every person in the group, all 8 people, got to take the scope and look at it for themselves. We would start walking, it would start walking.
So when you said you stopped, all 8 of you was able to look at it. How long of a time from the first time your cousin saw it, and you passed the scope around? How long was that time frame? Was that like seconds or minutes or what?
No, that went on for 20 minutes because we would sit and observe. Our thing that we do is you stop and you just do a listening post, observation post, and watch and listen.
Right. I understand
and it
that.
became obvious it wasn't going anywhere. We would stop, it would stop, and then finally, by the time we got to the western end of the ridge, it peeled off and went a different direction. We lost the smell, we lost the thermal.
So it was walking as y'all
when you lost visual of it. When you lost visual of it, the smell went away as well.
Yeah, that always happens.
And y'all were watching it was walking as y'all walked? Is that what you said, Jerry?
Yep. And it would stop when we stopped.
So how distance-wise, how far distance you traveled?
Say that again.
How much distance did y'all cover during that time when it was walking?
We covered about 3/4 of a mile across that ridge, give or take. And it maintained a distance of estimated around 40 yards, 45 yards. If it gets too far away into the foliage, you can't even see it with the thermal. But and this has happened in that spot before. It's just this time, it wasn't a fleeting thing. And what we did was, Ryan carefully looked at members of our group off in the distance and what their signature looked like on that thermal scope. And we were comparing it to what we were seeing over to the south of us. And it was obvious that what we were seeing was much broader shouldered, taller, and it was heavy footed enough we could hear it walking.
Okay.
Wow. That's crazy.
It is
now,
crazy.
When you guys pick this thing, just a couple questions. Is the thing fast? Can it be fast? Is it very like is it how does it stay
agile?
so well hidden, and how does it stay? I mean, is it? I don't know. Like, you know what I'm trying to say? How does he stay so elusive? I guess he just keeps his distance from you. Is it? Go ahead.
That's the topic. That's a big topic of discussion. That they're fast because you're talking a stride of 4 feet between steps, easy.
Right, and you know this because of the footprints you've seen.
We captured a footprint last fall,
Right.
and it was one print in the middle of the sandbar. It was 4 feet from the water's edge to the print, and 4 feet going the other direction from the print to the water. That's a huge step, and plus it was about a little over 3 inches impressed into the hard sand. And in our estimation,
so heavy
it was
too.
Steep.
Had some heft to it.
we think it was chasing a deer based on the deer tracks that was kind of right beside of it on that sandbar, and the deer was running, and you could see the sand kind of splashed out of that big footprint.
Right. Yep. And you said you found deer that were killed, other than with a rifle, with broken necks and backs and ribs and so forth. So for this thing, it's either got to be one of these spring out type of hunters, or it's got to be able to run one down, or use maybe 2 or 3 of them to kind of corner one or round them up or something. What? Any thoughts on that? Are these guys that good, or do they hunt in groups? You think, or?
I think they do hunt in groups, and the places they choose as kill sites are funnels. I believe they do the same things that humans have done. They have chasers that chase them into the kill zone, into the choke point, and then they're ambushed. One of the deers had a snapped hind leg. It was snapped, and obviously, in my opinion, they got the deer and they incapacitated immediately by snapping a leg, and then broke the neck.
Wow.
And you're talking multiple carcasses, as well as the fact that we found dog carcasses in this area. I haven't found a fresh dog carcass lately, but last August, my wife and I was walking on the creek, and we found a domestic dog that was dead. Last year we had one of the neighbor's dogs was killed. Its back was broken. And I think
Is there evidence of the dogs being eaten as well?
The deer, yes.
Just killed.
And one of the deer kill that was kind of off to itself, when I took the guys Saturday to show them the deer kill, the deer had been broken in half, and it was picked mostly clean of meat. But half the deer was about 7.5 feet up in a holly tree. And the jawbone of the deer was hanging on a tree about 6 feet up. The skull had been
almost like somebody hung it there. Almost like someone hung it there, or somebody hung it there.
The skull had been ripped so violently that part of the skull cap was still attached to the spinal cord. We didn't find the skull, but the skull cap was still attached to the spinal cord. And that takes a lot of force. Now, why they would throw it in a tree, I don't know. There was also tree breaks near every kill site. There were tree breaks. Trees about that big, alive, just snapped over. Some of them twisted and snapped over.
Right. When you said about that big, how big around? Just so for people listening, they know how big. What circumference wise?
Up to 6-7 inches in diameter, easy. On some of the tree breaks I found over time, but usually it's your smaller trees. 3 inches of diameter, but they're green. They're alive, and they're hard to break. They're alive.
Right.
Found 7 tree breaks Saturday. That's the record. I've never found that many in one day.
All right. But on the tree breaks, Jerry, are they all? I'm sorry. Were all the tree breaks laying in the same direction, maybe, or were they like, this one pointing this way, this one pointing that way, or whatever? Does that ever happen? All of them laying in the same direction?
Yeah. at each kill site, the one kill site that had multiple tree breaks, right there on top of that dead deer, they were broken and pointing the same direction.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Is that an indication or something that they're doing? Is that a direction type thing, or do they do that for a reason, you think, or what?
I honestly don't. I don't really have a good personal theory. I've heard a lot of people's theories on why they would do that, and it's been said that they're even used as navigation aids, and that they'll always point toward water if it's not around a kill site. And I have found that to be true, but I don't know. That's just one of the many mysteries.
Wow.
And you
Pointing
know, Rod,
towards water.
I was fortunate enough that Jerry was sending me pictures last week of the some of their hiking, and that the picture they sent me of the spinal column with the skull cap attached to it and it's 7-8 foot up in the tree was pretty wild. And he also sent me the picture of the jawbone hanging in the tree, and you know, just stuff like that just makes me wonder how in the hell did that get up there, or who placed that there, or what placed that there. Because it's just was not natural whatsoever.
Yeah, and along with this is kind of piggyback off what Hound Dog said. I mean, I've hunted all my life, and first of all, what predators are there that can do that to a deer? If it's a coyote, it's not going to be ripped. If it's a bear, are mostly in this part of the country, correct me if I'm wrong, Jerry, not generally carnivores, as far as like larger animals, and from a hunting perspective, that just don't happen. A dog's not going to rip something like that. A coyote's not going to do something like that. It has to be something that has the capability and the strength to rip it like that and then put it up that high. It just, to me, it makes...
Well,
when I say it doesn't make sense, it doesn't make sense for anything that we know of, other than what, you know, Jerry's talking about. I mean, it's got to be something different.
you know, what I'm thinking, when I, you know, first saw that picture of the spinal column in the tree, my mind went straight to, was that a big cat that put it up there? Then I got to looking at the tree. That tree was not a very big tree, it didn't look like, in circumference. And I don't know that it would have held the weight of a big cat like that.
Right.
I don't think it would, but you know, you never know. But
Well,
and then my next thing is if it wasn't what?
It was a young holly tree.
Okay, so it was really, really small in circumference and very pliable, bendable and stuff.
Right.
But yeah, so for something to put that up there in that tree, man, it blew my mind when I saw those pictures. And I appreciate you sending that to me too, Jerry.
And even like a big cat like that, Hound Dog, it's not going to have, generally, from what I know of, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jerry, but they're not going to have like multiple kills like that. They're going to have one they're going to eat and they're going to go on. They're not going to have multiple kills in the same spot. It's just not normal for them. And a deer, even if they herd up together, they're going to be spread out. So that to have that many in that spot like that and to be all killed in a fair proximity of time, it's got to be something that has the mental capacity to do it and the physical ability to do it.
Right.
Like he was saying, like grouping them together, funneling them into a kill zone.
Exactly. I mean,
Yeah.
it makes perfect sense.
Yep. Well, can we talk a little bit about a little bit in more detail about the last weekend's experience? Now, you said that you're camping at the creek bed, then you walked up. How high of an elevation did you go up when you got to the ridge, top of the ridge? How high up was that?
Well, about the ridge is probably about 300 feet or so above the creek bottom that it overshadows.
Okay.
And we choose that ridge because so many things have happened there. I've heard so many tree knocks and vocalizations from on top of that ridge, late in the night, over time. I'm outside every night. I've got dogs,
Right.
and sometimes I just go out there and sit and listen, and that's kind of the hot spot, and we know we're usually not going to be disappointed.
Okay.
What is when you said some of the ways they communicate? Tree knocks? Is that them just banging on trees with something?
Yep, just beating on a tree with a stick.
Oh, okay. And that's a regular thing they do to communicate, you think, or to any thoughts on what's going on there?
I think they are communicating, and you know, this is the thing with me living here, and I've been neck deep in this now for going on 8 years. These tree knocks is not something I've only heard once or twice. I've heard them. I couldn't tell you how many times I have them on audio, and then some of the wails and the whoops and the different sounds, the whistles. I believe they're communicating.
The whistles, Jerry. When you say whistles, what exactly is it like a what exactly is that? Is it like a human whistling, like a tune, or just a noise, or what?
The one time that I've heard the whistle close, it was just a short burst. It was a lower based frequency whistle. I can't.
Okay.
It's lower than that.
Huh. Okay.
Did
So
it
not
have
like not like a human whistle, like someone going, like a
No.
quick whistle or something that a human. Okay, I get it.
Okay, my question is, did it have a tone? It go like something like that, but in a very deeper.
No, it didn't really go up or down. It was the same pitch for that short duration. And I got to hear it really well because it was really close.
Yeah.
Huh.
Okay.
Good Lord of mercy.
Yeah. On that, just the background, and you know, I've told Jerry this before. That I'll go out in my backyard, which I have probably 25 or better acres of undeveloped land behind my house, nothing but woods. And I'll go out there and sit at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. You know, if I can't go to sleep or having trouble sleeping, I'll just go outside and sit and listen. Just don't make a sound. Just go out there and sit. And I've heard, you know, he talked about a whoop. I've heard a distant whoop before. You know, it sounded like it was like way far off. Then on the whistle thing, I've heard a whistle, and it's just like very deep whistle, just like Jerry described, just a straight tone. No, didn't go up or down or nothing. And I was like, man, what is that noise? What is that whistling like that? And then, you know, it did it 2 or 3 or 4 more times. And I sit there and listen. I didn't hear any tree, branch break or anything like that, or didn't hear no footsteps. So I went inside. But, stuff like that you hear in the woods in the middle of the night will blow your mind.
And one thing that I've heard Jerry talk about and other people talk about, and it's coming from my background, and I'm not saying I know it all by no means, but spending as much, I'm not an expert, but spending as much time as I have in the woods, to go in the woods, and I hear this a lot from Jerry and other people, that before they ever see something or smell something, one of the things that seems to be consistent with everybody, you don't hear any signs of wildlife. No squirrels, no birds, no nothing. It's just dead calm. And that's really unusual, but to me, it sounds like that is when there's a type of predator in there that they're trying to be calm. And that's not normal to the woods to be completely quiet. And that, to me, stands out.
Yeah. I understand that.
That makes sense to me. I've been camping a few times, and slept out on a 2 or 3 times. And I'll tell you what, I'm not I'm a city kid. So when I get out in the woods, guys, and it's at night, pitch black, and especially if there's no moon, it's pitch black, and the sounds, man, I got my damn gun right on my chest. I don't, it's scary being out in the woods, the sounds you hear, and it's probably nothing. But I understand, too, what Dobie was talking about. If there's a predator around, I would think most of the other animals, rabbits, squirrels, whoever, is going to be quiet because they're like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
They know it's there. We don't, but they know it's there. And that's why they would be dead silence, because whenever you're in the woods, you hear bugs, frogs, you hear all these fucking sounds. Mm-hmm. When it's dead quiet, that's kind of spooky.
It's eerie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very.
Yeah. And I guess that's what you would say. Is that right, Jerry? That is that kind of, a Sasquatch or something like that would probably get that kind of reaction from the other animals around.
Yeah. Apex predators will quieten down a forest.
And we're definitely talking about an apex predator, obviously. The size, the strength, and the things it can do. I don't know, guys. I'd like to hear some. You tell a good story. It's always stuck in my head about the two old folks on the side of the road. Not on the side of the road, maybe, but the two old folks that witnessed that Bigfoot, and you went to see them. Do you guys mind if you tell us that story again?
No,
real quick?
man.
Because I know a lot of people didn't. We had 2 listeners. Now we have 3. So I know one of them didn't hear that story. so maybe it'd be good. But I'd like to hear that story again, because that's one of those. That's like 2 innocent old folks telling a story from the heart that scared them shitless. And I just think it would be a good story to tell some of the listeners now who are listening. Would you mind going back over that one, Jerry? You remember the one I'm talking about?
I do. Yeah, I'll be glad to. That was one of the stories that impacted me at an emotional level. They actually came to me. I was still working at the little country store up in Casar, and they showed up.
That's right.
And I asked him, "Gentlemen, can I help him?" He said, "We're going to talk to you in just a minute." And I knew exactly what was getting ready to happen. And everybody left the store, and he was wringing his hands. So was she. She stayed propped up against the ice cream cooler behind him. And he said, "We just want to
describe them. Describe them. Describe them. Are they old folks, right?
Late 70s, early 80s. And he said that night before, which was a Wednesday night, he said they were driving up Dirty Ankle Road. Real name.
I know where that's. I know exactly where Dirty Ankle is.
They drove in the dark. It was late. It was getting on up near 9 o'clock. And he said that the headlights illuminated a silhouette. And he didn't think up much of it right at first, but as they got closer, it dawned on him how big, at the time, this person was beside the road. He thought it was a person. He got closer, and he could see much better, and then it turned and looked at him. And the eye shine from its eyes was red. And he kept going, and his wife chimed in and said, and her hands were shaking by then even worse, and her voice was shaking, and she said, "We will never go out driving again after dark, ever, for the rest of our lives." And his voice was shaking. The longer he got into the story, his voice kept shaking. They were deeply affected.
Dirty Ankle is out there.
Around here, that's not an uncommon thing. I did an episode on it. A guy contacted me here on 226, which is it's not a well-traveled highway late at night, but still, it's not Dirty Ankle Road, and he had an experience similar to what those old folks had, and it's a story that I've heard many times over.
So those old folks just passed by this thing, and they just said, "I don't know what it was, but it was big, it was tall, and its eyes glowed red. Scared the shit out of us. We're never going out after dark again." But it didn't do anything. It just was. They passed, but did they actually pass by it?
By the time they passed it, it had stepped back into the woodline.
Now that wasn't that long ago, was it, Jerry?
That was in late summer 2021.
So I thought.
I would have to look at my.
And I'll tell you this too. When this whole Na'vi thing kind of first got popular in Cleveland County, it seemed like a new thing. But then I started listening to you, and it's been going on for a lot longer than people thought. Because everybody there around Cleveland County thought this is new, and I didn't realize how far this goes back.
And Slow Ride
just... Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Hondo.
Slow Ride just popped in and said, "What's the close proximity to Cleveland County as to the South Mountains of North Carolina?"
The bulk of the South Mountains, the eastern end of the South Mountains, the eastern southern side is in Cleveland County. The northern... Wait a minute, let me start over. take the South Mountains. They run roughly east-west, west-east. Divide them in half, long ways. Most of the southern part of the South Mountains is in Cleveland County or Rutherford County. And then the northern part is mostly in Burke County, and some of the South Mountains go into McDowell County. So we have a big chunk of the South Mountains here in my area.
Okay. And Casar is in Cleveland County, right?
Correct.
Okay. Slow, I hope that answered your question. He said it did. Give a thumbs up.
Yeah, to me, it's just the stories are what get me because, it's one of those things where there's so many stories and eyewitness accounts, and yet people just still discredit that something's going on out there in the mountains. And like I think Hound Dog has said it, like he's what's the word you use, Hound Dog? A cautious believer or a
I'm a
skeptical believer or something.
Yes,
like that.
I'm a skeptic who wants to believe, but after having many conversations with Jerry, having watched anything I can possibly watch that's new on cryptids, man, I'm kind of thinking I'm like the monkeys.
And
I'm a believer.
And I'll tell you two things that's kind of strike me that, like we've talked on here before. I have been in the woods a lot in my life, and I've been around places where, and Jerry can tell the same thing, that deer come down this path. They're going to this corner, they're going to this field, and you see them on camera, and you sit there hours and hours and hours and never see one. So what are the odds of a primate type cryptid or what do you call it that we have not discovered that wants to be elusive and tries to be elusive and attempts to keep from being seen in a very rural area? It's not outside the realm of possibilities. Plus, the fact that, you see all these people on the internet and you don't know them. I don't know these people in the Northwest Mountains or Boggy Creek. I don't know any of these people. But having known and worked with Jerry and knowing his credibility as a
100%
person,
credible.
It's like, wait a minute, let me think about this.
Yeah.
So it holds a lot of weight in my book. One, knowing what I do know, and two, knowing where the source of information is coming from.
And let me tell you one thing that kind of, as soon as I saw this on TV, I think Jerry was the first person I texted or messaged about it. The last episode of Expedition Bigfoot that's on the Discovery Channel, they had they have teams that go out in the woods. I think they were in Washington State, if I'm not mistaken, where there's supposed to be a ton of Bigfoot activity, and one of the things, I'm the kind of guys like, not every, stick that's broken in the middle of the night is a Bigfoot. Not every, splash of something in the water is a Bigfoot. But they had actually very good video of something moving through the woods at night using a night vision camera, and you can see it plain as day. They following this thing until daylight breaks, and they're still following. They're sitting up on top of a ridge, looking over like a holler to maybe a logging road, and the one of the guys that's on the show was telling the cameraman, said, "Look over there. It's black. It's in the middle of the road. Look at it." And the cameraman was having trouble picking it up, but when he finally picked it up, it's like something very tall, very large, was walking upright, moving across the road into a tree line. And then you could see it for just another second or two in a tree line until it disappeared again. And for me, I mean, it's TV. Could it have been faked? It could have been. Do I think it was faked? No, I don't. And I'm one of the guys, if I think something's fake, I won't call it out. I don't give a shit if you get mad at me or what, but I'm just going to call you out on it. But I really don't think that was fake. And if anybody ever watches that, let me know what you think about it, because it was wild looking.
Damn. I know one thing. I forget who mentioned it. It might have been you, Jerry. I like evidence. I guess 30 years of being in the law enforcement world, I like evidence. You plain out telling me some shit and you have some evidence, that's how you convince me, because my mind still doesn't. My mind goes there, but again, there's some doubt. But when I heard this one thing, and I forgot who said it on this show, it was either Hound Dog or it was Jerry, and you guys are pretty, interchangeable. Like, you guys are into this stuff pretty good. And who's the one, or who told us about the DNA in the water?
Jerry. Could you tell that to our listeners again? The DNA in the water that they found and they studied, and what they came up with as far as comparing it to the other animals in the forest and stuff. Could you tell us that story?
I don't. The details of it are not coming to my head right now, but you can find.
It's the one you remember. It's the one though where they found DNA that is from a unexplained, unidentified primate.
I remember that.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Oh, Steve, the producer, just chimed in from above and said it was a documentary he watched.
He had his papers. He found
Where
his papers.
he does have papers. He is claiming to be a producer, and I think it's Steve. And he said that it was a documentary where they said they took a sample from a river or so of water, and they found DNA in the water of a undocumented primate species, meaning
Yes.
they don't know what the hell it is, but it's got. Producer just came in and said some real racist stuff, undocumented.
He went political. He went political.
He's going down that rabbit hole. He just went political, folks. No, but Jerry, they said it was the DNA from an unidentified primate at the time. Did you hear anything about that, Jerry? Is there anything? Did you hear about that as well?
I did, and that's not the only time. I believe they call that environmental DNA. There's another word for it, but there's many instances where people have had hair tested, and it's come back as an unknown primate, and it's not just one or two isolated things. It's something, and it's happening more as the phenomena is being investigated more evidence is coming forth. And so the DNA thing, you can't deny that. And when they say an unknown primate, it's not in the catalog. So somebody has to explain.
That's
Yeah.
exactly right. And that's the thing that gets me, and I think it'll get a lot of people maybe out there who might be skeptics. When you say DNA, and everybody knows today, even the people who don't pay attention know that DNA, admissible in court, it's very direct. It's like a fingerprint almost, type of shit. And when they hear DNA of an unknown primate, they're like, what does that mean? How today, Jerry, in this day and age, 2025, we're sending people to the moon, right? We're heading to Mars, we got all this stuff going on. We can't identify a hair sample or a sample from a riverbed of an unknown primate. Like, how do we know it's a primate, I guess, right? Because it's got some of the characteristics of a primate in the DNA sample, right? But it's not one we know. So primates being, right, gorilla, monkey, baboon, whatever, right? Is that right? Or is it even just primates in general? We just don't know.
Yeah.
They have no idea. They just say it's an unknown primate.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, if you would, Jerry, if you would go into this, one of your recent, it might have been the last one or not too long ago, they're talking about footprints. And you had a footprint, and it had ridges.
Dermal ridges. Can you explain a little bit more of that? Because that to me is just stood out.
Yeah, a group contacted a fellow named Jimmy Chilcutt, who was a police science guy down in Texas, if I remember right, and they asked him to analyze all of these footprint casts that they had amassed. And now Jimmy Chilcutt, by his own admission, he said, I went into this thing and I was going to debunk it. And once he started studying the footprints, he found the dermal ridges, which would be impossible to fake, especially when you're faking thousands of footprints that they've collected over time. The dermal ridges, just like we have on our feet and our hands that make our fingerprints unique.
Fingerprints.
Mm-hmm.
And that blew the lid off for the credibility, in a good way, of footprint cast. It's hard to deny. It's hard to deny that one too.
That was one that really stood out to me, and that along with the fact that this is not something that just started happening with the movie Boggy Creek. It's something. So I think you were one episode you talked about totem poles and how far these stories go back. It's kind of odd that these things just keep happening.
Over and over again.
All
Right.
parts of the country. I mean,
Yeah.
And
I just looked up because
they
Go ahead,
corroborate
Jerry.
they corroborate each other from a historical standpoint.
yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I looked up primates because I was trying to figure out what I was trying to tell you guys. Primates, as compared to mammals, all primates are mammals, but primates are a different classification according to what I'm looking at here. They have larger brains, and they're more of the gorilla family, humans, and baboons and so forth. Larger brain, smarter, more intelligent type, and they did classify that DNA from the riverbed as an unknown primate, as opposed to an unknown mammal. You know what I'm saying, guys?
Yeah.
That's kind of what I wanted to reference, because to me, when I say primate, I'm thinking of something that's gorilla-like, maybe walks on 2 feet, maybe 4 at a time, but can walk on 2, can stand upright, whatever, that type of thing. And again, it looks like it has a bigger brain pan and has, compared to its body size and so forth. That just was interesting to me too, because that lends credibility to them seeing a 7-foot tall Bigfoot, right?
Right.
It's a primate.
Yeah.
It's not just any old mammal on all fours. This son of a bitch is standing up 7 feet tall, hairy, you know what I'm saying, and leaves footprints like a human, right? Walking upright.
Right.
Yeah.
So the DNA they found in these riverbeds, to me, this is just my mind convincing myself there's something there, because there's DNA now of an unknown primate, which is corresponding with the footprints you find, the walk of the gait, the noise on the tree, the thermal imaging, all this put together. You're stacking a case where if it went to a court of law,
And another
right?
thing,
In the
to
civil,
kinda-
you'd win the civil case. It's just the beyond a reasonable doubt case. We're working on it, but it's getting close.
then
Yeah.
to go along with what Rod's saying, this guy what's the guy's name from Texas that went into
Chilcutt.
that was a police Chilcutt. I know how cops think. We all know how cops think. Jerry knows how we think.
Because we're all fucking sitting right here staring at
Right.
each other.
We are very, very skeptical, and by nature, right?
Oh,
we
yeah.
are all
you have
very
to be.
skeptical. So if this guy has that mentality that I know he has, because we know that mentality, and he goes in there, which I believe Jerry, that he went in there to prove it wrong, and now he's like, "Oh shit! Wait a minute, let me think about this."
Yeah.
That again, and not to say that, but I know how we think, and that carries some weight, knowing that one of my brothers is in there going, "I'm gonna prove this wrong," and then he's like, "Oh shit, well, maybe not." It carries a lot of weight, and it makes me really start to think about what's
question.
going on.
To question everything and think about it. Exactly. That's
he's
what.
gonna be
That's,
skeptical.
that's me.
Because that's how we are.
Yeah.
But it's the thing that I pride myself on is you can change my mind.
Correct.
Oh,
I could
yeah.
be one. I could be one way today. You bring me something, Jerry, and I could be the other way tomorrow, and back and forth. Because you know what, with evidence and with common sense, and you bring me information, I'll input the information in this big gourd, and I might change my mind. I mean, I'm all for it, because I want to improve my intelligence. I want to improve my smarts. I don't want to just stay stupid. If there's new evidence, I want to hear it, and I want to say, nope, you're wrong. There is such thing, or for sure, or man, I'm really leaning towards there is, because, and then I could cite those things. So I don't forget stuff like that, DNA in the river and the different things like that.
Right.
That stuff right there, get that one right there, the unknown primate. That's incredible to me.
And I'll
It's
tell
like,
you,
how do we
too,
not know? How do we not know that, Jerry? You know what I'm saying?
Some
That's
of
what I
these
think.
sources that Jerry's getting his information, I remember one story you told Jerry that was an elderly lady's, and I think they were maybe on Highway 10 or somewhere. And if I remember correctly, this story was a significant time ago. It wasn't just, I mean, it was a long time ago if I remember correctly. And the lady got out to go confront it.
Yep.
And, these people are not like, these people that you're talking about are not like people who are superstitious. I know the Casar area. These people they're used to that area. They're used to the woods. They're used to the farms. There are a lot of country farming people like that they're not afraid to go out in the woods. But now they have questions, or these people have had these encounters that they don't talk about for years down the road till they tell it 30 years later because they're scared or they're afraid to be looked at funny. It piques my curiosity.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, me too.
Well, Jerry, what do you think? We're looking at about 7-8 more minutes. You, Jerry, personally, you said you've been in this I think you mentioned about 8 years. You've been kind of immersed in this and really getting to it. And I know you've heard a lot of stories from different folks and everything like that. But Jerry, what really got you, whatever year it was, year 1 through 8, what was it that you really saw yourself, heard yourself, experienced yourself? What was the one that said, damn, there's some shit going on?
Good point.
Is there something in your brain pan that you can point to that go, that was the moment I knew I wanted to do this shit? And while you're still in this, year 8 going on year 9 or wherever you are?
Let's break it into stages, and I'll make it concise. When I was a kid, I saw Legend of Boggy Creek. I became a fan of the subject. It was an interest to me. It was, and on into life, it was a form of entertainment for me. I kind of believed, but it was just entertaining. But then, when we moved here, and I was here every night, I started finding the tree breaks in the woods. I started hearing the vocalizations. That was one thing. But then in August of 2017, at about 9:30 at night, it was a Thursday, my wife and I turned right onto our dead-end road. And as we turned, the headlights swept the cornfield that was there on the left side of our dead-end road. And both of us saw the large silhouette standing by the corn. We were both speechless, and it was easy to extrapolate how big that thing was because of the height of the corn. I even backed up,
right,
backed the car up, shined it to the corn, and it was gone. It had walked into the corn. That was the moment that it went from hearing things and seeing tree breaks, which is, that's kind of secondary to seeing something. And we saw it. And that's when it really grabbed me. And then one morning, it was the summertime of the same year, and it was shortly before that sighting happened, but I woke up, it was before I retired, and I woke up early in the morning, about 5:15, 5:30, and we had the window open. And in the woods across the road, I heard the loudest tree knock. It was loud, it was crisp, it was unmistakable. That was kind of a little bit of a kicking off point. But when we saw what we saw, that put me in a different mind frame, and it had me hooked then.
And you said we saw it, which is it gives it even more credibility, because it's not like, man, did you see that? And when your wife said, yeah, I saw that, what the hell was it? And you guys start talking about seeing the same thing, at the same time. It's not like you're like, did I see that? Am I crazy? No, she saw it too. He saw it too. That's the thing that. Go ahead, Hound Dog.
Well, speaking of Jerry's wife, I hope don't mind me saying, but she is a retired law enforcement officer too.
I agree.
So she is, her credibility is up there.
And just
Jerry's
kind of
background.
piggyback it,
Jerry,
just
you're
kind of-
retired. You're retired law enforcement as well, right, Jerry? Just so
Court
people
system.
know where you come from.
I retired from the court system.
Right.
Court system, okay.
And kind of piggybacking off of what Hound Dog said, and I was kind of getting ready to go that same route. Hound Dog, Slow, and I, we all know his wife, the sheriff's, working in law enforcement. So that it's another thing of credibility. We know her.
Credibility. We
know how she is. We know the kind of person she is. And it just kind of corroborates that whole credibility that we're talking about with Jerry. We know her, and she's not going to tell us a bunch of bullshit.
Right.
The producer's talking, folks. Give us a second, and then we'll fill you in. So the producer's asking about, I got the second one, Hound Dog. If there is Bigfoot, why haven't we found one yet? Where's the body? Why haven't we captured one yet? That's question one. What was the first one?
The first part of the question was that, him being, Jerry being in the court system, being a magistrate for many, many years, He had to deal with probable cause and reasonable suspicion. So, using probable cause, how does that narrow the field? Is that right, Slow? Okay, yeah.
You put a thumbs up.
Yep.
Crooked thumbs up. Go ahead, Jerry. If you could answer those two.
Yeah, I can only say this, that the evolution of the things I've experienced has brought me where I am today. I have now seen things and heard things and found evidence. I'm to the point. I'm past beyond a reasonable doubt. And as far as the body, well, historically, there have been reports of bodies being found, and who knows what happened. You know, there was one body that was taken around back in I guess it was late 1800s. I'd have to check my book, but it was taken around to circuses and things like that and showcased. And then there's been other more modern reports where the people found a body and they just don't bring it to the attention of the authorities or to science, because there's a lot of mistrust now. And I think it's very possible that it could be a situation where I found a body in the woods and I reported it. They're coming to get it. And who knows what they're going to tell me. They may tell me to keep my mouth shut or else. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But I believe there has been bodies.
Well, that's true because, like... Oh, I have no doubt. I was just about to add to that. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Just like Roswell, and the alien stuff, maybe the government found a couple bodies and they're just keeping it on the DL like they do with the Roswell stuff and the UFO stuff, because there's been a lot of evidence of that as well, and they still won't admit it. You know what I mean? So maybe somebody did call in a body and they went and grabbed it and they said, "Hey, we're keeping this on the down low. We can't have people thinking it's Bigfoot." You know what I'm saying?
And in my opinion, I think the government knows for a fact that there are these cryptids out there. I'm like beyond a reasonable doubt. They know.
And I'll say two things to go along with what Hound Dog and Rhino are saying. One, a little different tangent, but it doesn't take, especially with the amount of coyotes we have today and different animals like that, how long it would take for them to digest that, to get rid of that. Because I know for a fact, I have close friends of mine that have killed a deer. Deer goes off in the woods. They wait 30 minutes to an hour to go get it because they're waiting on their buddy. See if he's going to shoot something. They go over there and it's picked clean. They never knew the coyotes went in there. So it wouldn't take that long if it's a very, very rural, dense, for that smell to get out, for these animals to decompose that body very quickly. Number two, coming from a law enforcement side of it, not to dig into too much of a conspiracy theory type thing, but say, for example, Rod Nader, Hound Dog Slow, Jerry, if you were to get a call and you were to get the call out to the Sheriff's Department of Wildlife and you find this and you tell your supervisor and your sergeant tells your captain and they tell the chief, do you think they're going to tell you to keep your damn mouth shut?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, is that what's happening? I don't know. Is it a possibility? Yes. But I also believe that these things can get decomposed and taken care of very quickly just by nature. But if you're not on top of it, you're not going to find it.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
That's a good point. Point.
Well,
Jerry, listen, we're about it. Go ahead.
We have to factor in something else on that. We don't, there's a lot of answers we don't know. And by the way, I tell people I'm not out to prove anything to anybody. This is mostly a personal journey for me, and I'm looking for answers. But if it's a higher social order animal with that much intelligence, they may take their dead off somewhere. They may bury them. Who knows?
That's a possibility.
Good point. That's what we do.
That's what we do. That I've had dogs growing up on farm. They decide they're going to die, and they go off somewhere. Yep. They'll go off where they're not going to be around anybody.
Yeah, very true.
That is true.
Yep.
But I think too is like if something knows that they don't want to be found, that they want to be hid, and like, that kind of dense wild woods and that kind of thing, they can make it happen.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely true. But yeah, with me, like I said, Jerry, my thing since talking with you and hearing the different things, you know, you got me going, you know, with this. Especially, I'm telling you, that DNA really hits me, dude. That's like that gives me a chill just thinking about this. Something out there we don't even know, hasn't even been identified yet. What could that be in the same area with your footprints, in the same area with the tree breaks, in the same area with the noises, in the same area you see these big things on thermal, in the same area where these people see shit that scares them shitless. They won't go out at night anymore. All this in the same areas, you know, and stuff. How can you say there's nothing there?
That's like on you know, you see all these shows where they go out and collect hair samples that they find in, you know, stuck in a branch or whatever, and a lot of them that they've collected, you know, I think all primates or all humans have the core of their hair, you know, right down the center of their hair, you know, one piece of hair is the core or the what the hell is it called?
Root.
Kind of like a root. And I've seen multiple shows, you know, watching this stuff, that the unknown primate that we've talked about in this podcast does not have that core or that root inside the hair. Is that a thing, Jerry, that you know of?
It is a thing. Yep. Absolutely.
Okay, because, you know, it's just...
And I'll tell you this, this literally just popped in my head. But we talk about the unknown primates that may be out there in the woods and the mountains and things of that nature. Has there not always been discussions about unknown sea life that's so far down that they can't find it?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Yeah. Is that not a very similar theory? I mean, something's that far off in the wilderness, same concept.
Yeah,
Because we can't get to it. Yeah. How long does it take for a footprint to dissipate?
Yeah.
They say the ocean is crazy, dude.
Yeah. I mean,
they
how
say
long
the ocean,
footprints...
there's stuff down there that we have no idea. We have not even the foggiest clue what's down past a certain level.
What's the difference between that and being way out in the wilderness? Well, something that has enough mental capacity not to want to be found.
What you got there, Jerry?
That's that footprint. That's the best of the footprints that we cast in the marshy area Saturday. And you're looking at 525 pounds it would take to make the impression. So I'm just looking for answers.
No shit. Oh.
I'm just looking for answers, right. and the answers that mainstream offers is not satisfactory.
Well, folks, on the listening side, Jerry just held up a cast of a footprint that, as you heard, would take over 500 pounds to make that print that he held up, which looked like a damn Shaquille O'Neal's foot. You know what I mean? Looked like a dugout canoe type shit. But anyway, it was big, and it's just more evidence, folks, of what would make that kind of footprint and what would kind of have that kind of dense weight to be able to make that footprint. So, unbelievable.
Yeah,
unbelievable. Producers on the air, folks. Stand by.
Yes. Right.
That makes sense. Never thought about it, but it makes sense.
Yeah, what Slow said in Mitchell County, where he's at, there's been 60, how many? 67? Slow?
60 plus.
60 plus sightings of Bigfoot, and they all seem to coincide with the apple harvest in that area. You know, in the mountains, there's a lot of apple farms or whatever you want to call them. And he wanted to know if you can elaborate on that.
Do you think there's any connection, I guess?
Connection,
Jerry?
yeah, connection. That's what I was getting to.
Could that be something? I don't know.
It makes sense.
Could that be a thing?
It would make very much sense because, not to overstep Jerry, but that from a hunting perspective, that makes a lot of damn sense.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on that, Jerry?
There's tons of evidence, including our own personal observations of not just the fruit trees, apple trees, and what have you, but corn, soybean fields. We're in rural area. There's so much agriculture here, and to include fruit trees. And there's plenty of evidence that shows that they're opportunistic, just like humans would be if we were if we were still hunter-gatherers, we would be raiding these cornfields and these apple trees, and they're doing it. They're
Right.
actually they're doing it.
And that makes sense for wildlife.
Yeah.
Yeah, that does make a lot of sense.
Because I can't tell you how many times I've hunted a cornfield, an apple orchard, because when they start falling, the deer are going to come in there. And it makes perfect sense for any other type of wildlife to do the exact same thing.
Yeah,
so go ahead.
No, they have their a lot of deer in the apple orchards, and for the evidence that we've seen tonight with the deer carcasses that Jerry's found, there's a very good possibility that they use the apple orchards to funnel deer to where they can kill them and eat them.
Or to get them grouped together in large numbers.
Yeah.
Because, you put out I'm not a hunter, if you could have guessed. But, you put out what's that you put out for deer to get them to come around?
Corn.
Yeah, but these bundles of shit, right? You put something out and they feed on it, I don't know what the hell it's called, sugar or something? I don't know. Anyway, but
Deer licks.
Producers came in deer licks. Okay, there you go. Anyway, so maybe it's not the apples. Maybe it's the apples attracting the deer, which then attract the Bigfoot because they're in larger numbers because of the, so that that could make sense.
Very good point, Rob.
I don't know, that could make sense, Not that the Bigfoot's eating apples, for God's sake, but you know what I'm saying. He could like an apple.
Everybody likes a good apple.
Exactly. Well, what? So Hound Dog, I know you've mentioned in the past, if you want to touch on this, and I've even asked this question too, and I don't want to get too down the rabbit holes we say, but anything on Bigfoot's being some kind of extraterrestrial type of being?
Absolutely. There's a lot of, in my opinion, I think for studying up on this stuff, there's been a lot of coincidences, so to speak, with a UPA, unidentified flying phenomena. Is that what UPA? Is that what it is?
AP.
UAP, yeah. And that having to deal with somebody sees a flying saucer, UFO, or whatever you want to call it, then all of a sudden they see some kind of creature in the general area that's happened at. And, matter of fact, just tonight, before we came on the air, Jerry sent me a video. I hope you don't mind if I use this as a example.
That's fine.
Jerry sends me a video that he took last week on their expedition, and it was started out with a green light floating around in the atmosphere there.
Trees.
Turned to a red light. It's in the trees, floating around in the trees. Turned from green light to a red light, back to a green light maybe, and just went away. And from what I understand, Jerry chime in there. At this point, it's when you maybe saw or got the whiff of the stench and odor that you got, or the visual, the thermal imaging. Is that close to it?
Yes, we had already had the stench, and we were being shadowed off to our left to the south of us. And then the video was these lights were approximately up about 30 feet in these hardwood trees on the top of that ridge. And so it was opposite from where we were being shadowed. And I observed it for 15 seconds or more. By the time I got my camera out, hit video, I got lucky that time and was able to catch it. We have strange lights around here. There is a clear connection all over between places that are hot spots and these weird lights. I've gotten green, it doesn't matter what we call it, a green orb or a strange green light. I photographed on a couple of occasions, and I'm not the Lone Ranger department. The weird orange lights, there's a more rare red light like you saw in the video that people report, and we've seen it ourselves. A really, really bright light that we've seen here, and we have not overnight camp out and did a night hike. We didn't see these weird lights, and they're not
Wow.
You know, they're far off in the distance. They're close, and they're low to earth. They're up in the atmosphere. So what's the connection? I don't. But they
Now, y'all are
coexist.
nowhere near the Brown Mountain, correct?
Brown Mountains are what, as the crow flies, maybe 40 miles northwest of us. But Casar's had a long history of the strange lights as well.
Yeah.
The Casar area, the South Mountains area in general.
I didn't know
not
there was
just-
a connection there or not.
There's something up with that, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just referring to if there could be some kind of connection there, because with how elusive the Bigfoots are, you know, and so forth, how we talk about that, how they pop in, pop out, and don't seem to be able to, can't really get our hands on one, so to speak. You know what I mean? But there's
Right.
evidence of,
Yeah.
just like there's evidence of the UFOs. We see them and stuff. We think we see them and stuff, but we really can't get. Well, we think we didn't get our hands on. We know we got our hands on one probably back in Roswell, but you know what I'm saying? Just the general public, you know.
Yeah.
So I just didn't know how that could be. They can remain elusive because maybe they're. Who knows? You know, I've mentioned it before. I could be crazy, but maybe they're down here running around, and all of a sudden they pop them back out, and then we can't find them because they're not even here anymore. They're somewhere else for a minute. You know,
Kind of like beam me up, Scotty.
yeah, exactly. I
Yeah.
mean, it sounds stupid, but I don't know. You know,
You never know, man.
again, these are just in my mind. These are just options, but there's something definitely there. So
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's one question I was wondering about, because there's the video that you know Jerry shared with me was. I watched it probably about 5 times when he sent it. I said, "Holy shit, man, that's kind of crazy."
And that says something too when you see a video and you watch it several times because you're like, wait a minute, is that?
Yeah,
You know, when it gets your attention that much, that's like holy shit. You know, like because you're trying to make sense of it in your head, probably to call bull. Oh, that's just whatever.
Yeah.
And when you can't do that, and you're looking at it, goes, what the?
how does it go from one color to another color to another color?
Right.
Yeah, I
You
don't
know,
get it.
whatever the case may be, or like Jerry saw that thing in the cornfield. What the hell was that? You saw it too, and his wife said, "Yeah." They
Yeah.
both saw this big thing walk into the cornfield. Like, what the hell is that? Our neighbor ain't 8 feet tall.
Right.
What the hell was that?
And I agree, going back to what Hound Dog said, knowing that both of these sources of information, Jerry and his wife, it hits home. I mean, it really does.
Oh yeah,
And just the demeanor of those old folks that got Jerry in the store was telling them about just forget their story. Just look at their reaction, their body reaction,
yeah.
the wincing of the hands, the shaking, the way they told the story. They were terrified. It sounded like.
And we in
And
law
then I go-
enforcement know that's something that people
That's a
don't just
sign.
do.
Yeah, you can't hide.
Absolutely.
We look for signs, right, guys? Detectives,
Yeah.
you look for the sweating, you look for the pupil dilation, you look for the different things.
nervousness.
Yeah,
Right, and you can tell when someone's telling the story when their voice breaks up and they're talking. They're going, and you could, and these old folks, 80 years old, man, those
yeah. They're not
folks
making
aren't
that
playing
shit
no
up.
games.
They're not making it up.
games. They go home at night and lock their damn doors. You know they do to this day
Yeah.
because that's
And they're
something
not
that's,
the only
that's something
witnesses
it's
that
hell.
I've
Their
talked
story
to.
stuck with me.
They're not the only
What's that,
witnesses that I talked to who had a clear emotional response.
Oh, I'm sure you've got plenty.
And that is something they genuinely believe in their heart.
You can't
Yep.
fake it.
And
I
you've had
saw
several of
Rob-
those. I mean, you've had many of those, Jerry, right?
I saw a grown man who was a Vietnam veteran, as he relayed. He sat down and talked with me, and he actually began to cry when he talked about the encounter they had. And it was one of the episodes. I didn't talk about him crying on the episode, but him and his uncle
I remember you talking about him.
had a horrifying encounter, and he actually, while he was telling me the story, started crying.
Can you tell? Is it? Can you something you could tell us or no?
Oh yeah, yeah. He had
I
come back
remember
from
the
the
story.
early 70s, and his uncle, who was more like a dad to him, asked him to go squirrel hunting. They knew of a good hot spot for hunting squirrel into the interior of the South Mountains. They had to walk over a mountain to get to where they wanted to go. And as they crested the mountain, they stopped to rest, and through his scope on his rifle, No, it was. But I'm trying. Sometimes I get all the witnesses' stories meshed together, but it is either binoculars or a rifle scope. They saw this primate-looking thing down on lower elevation, laying there, kind of across the log like it was napping, and it got up, and it didn't really turn and look at him. It just kind of slightly turned its head, and it walked off into the woods. They descended the mountaintop, went to the place where they wanted to hunt, and they started being pursued into the night, and they couldn't go back the direction where their truck was parked because that thing was between them and where their truck was parked. They had to get to a creek, and they knew that creek led to the road, and that was the story he told. And it put on these threat displays, and would stop when they would stop and turn around and look. It was showing its teeth. It was making these gestures and growling and wailing and whooping. And that man, when he told me that story, and I'd known him a number of years before he ever even came to me and talked to me, that man was scared, and he had an emotional response that is not uncommon with people who have that kind of an encounter. It's a well-documented thing. Not just me and my witness, couple of witnesses, but it's a well-documented thing.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that has impressed me. There's so many, and it goes back so far.
Yeah.
It's not just Nobby from 10 years ago.
Right.
Right.
And knowing Casar, that area in the 70s, I know how rural Casar is now. In the 70s, Casar was extremely rural.
Yeah. Speaking of in the middle of nowhere,
Yeah,
that would
exactly.
be Casar.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I did some time as a probation officer. So I'm from in Cleveland County, so dirty ankle, all that. It's rural. There's plenty of wilderness for anything out there.
Yeah, yeah. No doubt. Oh, wow. Man, I could listen to these stories all night because that's the stuff that really gets you going when you hear
Yeah.
other people's encounters and when they all kind of get funneled through, and you're kind of like a conduit, Jerry, because people come to you now. So I know you get inundated with these stories, and I know it just keeps confirming what you already know. I think in your heart that there's something you're seeing and hearing and smelling and making footprints of. There's something. Period. That's the bottom line. Am I right, Jerry?
Yep. It's my own experiences propelled me into this. And then when you look at the totality of the body of evidence worldwide, it's not a giant network of hoaxers. It's not a case of mass hallucination spanning literally hundreds of years. That the mainstream's not offering any answers outside of, well, people are mistaken, people are being hoaxed, people are making it up. There's too many anecdotal stories. There's too much evidence. They're going to have to come. They're going to have to do a lot better than what they do when they try to explain these things away. For me,
And just
Because
knowing how
I've had the personal one. I have to remember that not everybody's had the privilege of seeing and hearing some of the things I've heard. And I've got, because I live here, because I'm outside every night of the year, I stay in the woods. And people are used to sitting on their couch and making their decisions, and I have to remember that. But that's what's propelled me forward, is my own personal observations.
Yeah.
That's what people do on the regular. They sit on their couch and they make Monday morning quarterback observations with everything in life.
Exactly.
And when you finally get people in front of you like yourself who actually have a lot of time invested, personal time with their own eyes, ears, nose, and so forth. This is why we have you on, because you could fill us in, and you can get people start thinking a little bit, because you don't see any of this anymore much unless you look for it, like on National Geographic, like Slow talked about in different shows, like you're doing now, Jerry. So can you tell us a little bit more, Jerry, about where people can come and listen to what you got going on right now? Producers on right now, folks. Hang on one second. Slow Rides asked Jerry, what's the next step with all the different organizations he's involved with. What's the next steps for them to go on this trail, on this journey, on finding more on Bigfoot? Jerry?
I'll keep doing what I'm doing.
And we'll definitely have you on again, and we can give updates through the show, whether you're on it or not. So that's fantastic. And I guess, folks, what he's trying to say is, you go to Pennsylvania, he's going to see the same stuff he sees here, and all these other places. Which means this is happening all over the country, probably all over the world, right? In wooded areas. So there's something going on, folks. Rod Nader, a skeptic, is telling you. There's something up. There's something to this. I haven't heard all the sounds and smelled them and stuff, but man, just hearing some of the evidence, which I like the evidence. I'm a skeptical believer, I guess is what Hound Dog says.
Yep.
I'd love to see one laying on a slab somewhere and go, damn, okay, you know what I mean? But I think it's very interesting. I love it, and we're about going to wrap, guys. We're going about an hour and a half. Went a little long. I don't want to put people to sleep. What you got? Anything left to go that you want to tell us about, Jerry, as far as the channels and the platforms that people can listen to you on? Wow. Excellent. Hey, Jerry, fantastic, dude. What a great show, man. It was great having you on. Yeah. Guys, I really enjoyed today's show. You guys got anything left for Jerry?
One quick question is just not a question, but I follow you on TikTok and whatnot, but I'm curious as what other things that are going on within my neck of the woods, because I'm familiar with Casar, North Carolina, but now I'm in Alabama. I'm curious at anything that is in this area. But like everybody else said, we're a bunch of cops, so we're skeptic, but you've got our attention, and I really appreciate it, Jerry.
We'll do it. Hound Dogs, you good?
Absolutely.
But, this is usually the part of the show that I always say, hey, y'all be sure to tune in to Jerry Millwood's The Strange and Unexplained Phenomena of South Mountains, North Carolina. But, hell, he's already said it. The man himself has already said it. So y'all join me and join in Jerry watching that.
All right. Well, listen, Jerry, we enjoyed it, man. Thanks for staying over with us, dude. I know you're a busy guy and you need to get some sleep. Slow, I guess, producer guy in the cloud. We're ready to wrap this up.
With his peppers.
Studio 77 production, he told me to say. And we are out, folks. We enjoyed it, and we will see you next time on Bourbon and Badges.
Remember, let's drink about it and drink.
You mean it's over? Well, shit.